Now the capture's working. I have my monster. The grape ones aren't too bad. I think it must be grape. It tastes kind of like grape. It doesn't really say, you gotta like Google it. It's decent. Apparently a friend of mine has this as like one of his top favorites. I think it's okay. But I think I've lost some interest in grape drinks over the years. They used to be a favorite of mine as a kid though. I used to have this drink all the time, which I think still exists in the South in the US, but isn't really a thing up in the North anymore. Saw it in the McDonald's when I was like down there in Georgia a long time ago. Georgia and Florida. It's called Fruitopia. Does it taste like the grape jam I made? No, it's not as good as that. I can't wait until I can get the grapes again this year, and I can like maybe do a more proper attempt at this stuff. I've already gotten some, like, herbs, but right now it's too cold to go out. Oh, hold on, I should fix it a little bit. It's gotta be, like, right there. Perfect. Okay. So, last time on Umineko Ball Z, we learned more or less that apparently Leon is Beatrice? Or related to Beatrice somehow? The child of Kinzo and Beatrice. So let's read on and see exactly what the implications of that are. Because Will said that Beatrice doesn't exist in this universe, essentially. In Leon's universe. Which means that Leon must be Beatrice. Oh, quiet you. As soon as I realized that Leon was 19, it was the same number as the baby from 19 years ago. So this is in response to, when did you realize that Leon shared Beatrice's blood? The hint that appeared in the 5th game. Didn't that baby fall off a cliff? Leon is the baby who was accepted by Natsuhi and didn't fall off the cliff. In other words, if Natsuhi rejects the baby, Leon doesn't exist. You're saying I'm not Mom's child? That's insane. You say that, but you don't look too sure. That's right. Ushiromiya Leon is not Natsuhi's child. Say it in red. This is the grown-up version of the baby Kinzo got from somewhere 19 years ago. Not somewhere. Leon clearly shares Beatrice's blood. The proof is the silver ring, which is only ever given to Leon across all of the many worlds. Why does the ring prove that I share Beatrice's blood? In all the many worlds, you are the only one who receives it. That means that, in all the worlds, you are the most important person to Kinzo, second only to Beatrice. Hey, sweetie. Why don't you feature yourself a bit better on the camera, huh? Oh, she's gonna be way over there. Huh? Whatever. We'll go back to me. And his love for you is clearly greater than it is for his son, Kraus, or his granddaughter, Jessica. And you were 19 years old. In other words, if we look back to see what happened 19 years ago, it can lead to a certain theory. 19 years ago? What's supposed to have happened at the time I was born? You heard it too, didn't you? You even heard it today. And Will was with you, right? You don't mean... Aurora's story. That's right. Aurora's story came out in the 3rd game. And when the age of the baby in the 5th game matched that date, a certain theory became possible. The fact that Kinzo brought a baby from somewhere and tried to add it to his family proves that the baby was somehow important to him. And I'm the child of the Kuadorian Beatrice. The Kuadorian Beatrice was the daughter of the Beatrice who arrived in that submarine, but Kinzo didn't think of her as a daughter. He believed she was the same person, Beatrice reborn. When that reborn Beatrice reached the same age as the first Beatrice, and truly looked like Beatrice's double, Kinzo made a terrible mistake. I don't want to hear it. That's how it is. Kinzo got Beatrice pregnant with Beatrice, and then he got that Beatrice pregnant with you. So you're both Kinzo's child and Kinzo's grandchild. Nasty. But of course, the Beatrice, recursion continues. Like I've been saying from the beginning, it's Beatrice's all the way down. I wasn't wrong. If we consider Kinzo's heart, this is the inevitable theory we reach for explaining why he treated you so specially. He regretted his mistake so much that he tried to make you his proper grandchild. In almost all cases, Natsu's pride is brutally hurt and she refuses to raise Leon. Because of that, you almost always fall from the cliff and disappear. I heard that I was the child they were finally blessed with after so long, and that Jessica was born the next year. If you really never suspected that Natsu wasn't your mother, then you should thank her in this world. The reason you never realized the truth is because she's shown as much affection to you as she did to Jessica. There's no need to thank her. After all, it took a dizzying span of time to find a fragment with you in it. Mathematically speaking, there's actually a 2,578,916 out of 2,578,917 chance of her refusing to raise you. You should probably be thanking me for creating this miracle, not Natsuhi. Enough with your stupid probability games. Oh, I'm sorry. Is she? No matter whose blood you bear, that doesn't change the debt you owe to the family that raised you. I realize that. Still, I would like some time to calm down and think things through. That is, if you'll refrain from ignoring my heart. Sure. Leon took a deep breath and looked upwards. Anyone would be shocked to find that their parents weren't who they believed them to be. Still, Leon should be grateful. Grateful towards the family that raised a child who wanted for nothing. It is pretty interesting. Hard to believe that the Golden Witch Beatrice might have lived such an ordinary life, even at such absurdly low probabilities. Isn't it? I think moments like this are hilarious. Will had said it plainly. Ushida Mia Leon is how the Golden Witch Beatrice appears in a different world. The baby Natsu projected 19 years previous. If she had accepted that child, this is the future that would have occurred. However, if she doesn't accept that child, the witch will be born. The baby whose birth was not celebrated becomes a witch. Leon is the dead cat. However, Leon's existence has nothing to do with what you're interested in, but Akanjima's serial murders. In other words, Leon is the cat that disappears when you open the cat box. Exactly. Leon is just a disappearing cat. But this was pretty fun for a side trip, don't you think? You're the only one having fun. If I wasn't trapped here, I wouldn't even worry about reasoning this out. I think I know why I was chosen to be your partner in this strange detective game. It seems this Burncaster witch enjoys toying with people's fates and sneering at them. Wow, incredible. It's rare for someone to understand me on the day we meet. Apparently, I've become something that gets called a witch in another world. And apparently, I'm the cause of some sort of crime. Is that my sin? It's no sin of yours. You are you. How things would be if the coin were flipped the other way isn't your problem. Thank you. Even so, I don't think anyone would be pleased to hear that they caused some sort of trouble in a world of a different fate. Please tell me, what do I do in that other world? Burncaster? Should we show the fragments to this kid? I guess so. Will opened his hand, and something that looked like a pale blue glowing shard of crystal appeared there. It was a memory, no, a game record of all the games so far. Touch this. You'll be able to see your fate in other worlds. Your face is telling me that I'd be happier if I didn't touch it. Of course. You've probably guessed, but the story here isn't a happy one. Even so, even if it is another world, it's still about me. You have both the right to know and the right not to know. If you can convince yourself that the one similar to, yet different from you is a separate person, then touch it. Don't you want to know? Of course she would egg her on. About the fate you might have reached? Ask this as your partner. Would you show that to me? As your partner, I'd say look. But as a friend, I'd say don't. Unfortunately, I'm not your friend. Then as a partner, I have one last question. What? Are you a boy or a girl? Well, that was abrupt. I could see you as a fairly slender boy. But then again, I could also see you as a no-nonsense sort of girl. Even Burncaster has been intentionally keeping it a secret. She made Jessica call you our successor some all the time instead of Nisan or Nason. You were quick People often ask me about my gender, so I always give the same irritated response. Which do I look like to you? In the 5th game, you're supposed to be a boy. But in many other games, you're thought of as a girl. Yeah, remember, the man from 19 years ago in the 5th game was a man. The one that called Natsuhi was a man. Natsuhi's child was a man. Or at least shown that way. It's explicitly said to be that way. Pregnant with Mecha Beatrice. You know, you can say that stuff in Umineko context, and like, it doesn't even sound that off the wall anymore. But in many other games, you're thought of as a girl. In the 6th game, when Ushimiya Battler was the master, 2 demons of different sexes appeared, but we didn't know which was which. In fact, strictly speaking, it started all the way back in the very first game. Your gender is one of the hidden mysteries that exists outside the games themselves. I'd hate to give you an answer so easily, so I won't. We're partners, right? Does it really matter if I'm not the gender you'd prefer? You're right. If we're working together on this, I don't care what your gender is. So Beatrice is a mystery, technically. Interpret them however you like. I will call Beatrice a girl. The game doesn't make it clear, so it's kind of up to your interpretation and whatever you like. Thank you. I've developed a bit of a complex about it, so I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm all for gender equality. If someone's a waste of space, I'll smack them no matter who they are. Thanks, Will. And of course, I'll pinch rude people no matter which gender they are. She has been shown to do that. The Japanese doesn't specify it either, of course, no. This isn't something that the English wrote in. No. Slowly, Leon reached out and touched the fragment. No, it's like an actual thing. This is story accurate. A moment later, Leon seemed to undergo a violent bout of dizziness, and silently slumped over like a puppet with its strings cut. It was no surprise. When people who don't understand parallel universes have many different fates jammed into their heads, they tend to feel like their brains are swelling and their sense of self is melting away. The man from 19 years ago was explicitly said to have a deep man's voice, I believe. It was definitely a man. It was explicitly shown to be a man. Or at least sounding like a man, you know what I mean. It was expressed as that, it was shown to be as that. If you want me to go back and look, it's gonna be a bit further. Let me find it for you. Yep. This says, like, you're a guy in the 5th game, whatnot. And if I find a thing from, like, man from 9... Oh, I can't go back further than this. So that's as far as I can go. But yeah, it mentions, like, the man in the 5th game here, so that should be enough confirmation for you, really. But again, it's handled well. Leon seemed to have lost consciousness. As far as I know, it's equivalent to the Japanese quite well. So, Leon had what it took to learn everything. A perfect piece to be your partner, wouldn't you say? I'll continue my reasoning. I've talked about the dead cat. Very true. Next up is the living cat. The only one who can kill the Beatrice of 1986 is the one who created her. There are tons of hints. If you think about it, they've been coming since back when Beatrice was running the games. That's true. In the 4th game between Beatrice and Battler, Beatrice's origin became clear. So he's picked up on stuff we haven't yet, of course. And at that point, I learned who Beatrice was and about that person's heart. What do you mean by heart? The motive. The reason why Beatrice had to commit a game-like crime on October 5th, 1986, putting even her own fate on the line. Impressive. So you figured out the whodunit and the whydunit as early as the 4th game. Then what about the howdunit? Once you know who the culprit is, theorizing about the howdunit isn't possible. Those linked closed rooms in the 3rd game were a pretty nice job. Almost made me feel like applauding. And the who am I from the end of the 4th game? The culprit who can kill everyone at midnight on October 5th no matter where they are. By that moment, it's possible to form a certain sort of hypothesis. You might call that the other treasure of the Golden Land. Ooh? So you say you can reach all the answers by the 4th game? In other words, with just Beatrice's games? It's possible. After that, the Delta's game and Battler's game were filled with even more hints. As is this game of yours. Well now, why don't you stop stalling for time and just tell me? Who is the culprit? Big stuff coming up. At that moment, though there hadn't been anyone but them in the chapel, small footsteps rang out. That silhouette slowly walked up to Will and Van Castell and gave a small bow. So you've come. Did you call this person here? Yeah. Who done it? How done it? And why done it? I've understood this person's motive. And are you going to give up just because he's found out your motive? There's no concrete evidence, right? You could make a flashy fight of it with red and blue. That's not what this person wants anymore. They nodded slightly. Their wish was to be noticed. Once that happened, they had no need for trivial excuses or pointless word games. I believe that I understood your motive, your heart. I'm going to describe it now. I called you here to listen and correct me in your own words if I've gotten anything wrong. The two of them nodded to each other once more. In your 4 games, I found your message. In other 3 games with different masters, I was able to picture the strange sort of fate that must have toyed with your life. You left me speechless. In every game, you die without revealing the truth to anyone. Having this person confess in this empty chapel might be pointless. However, even so, I believe it will give her some sort of salvation. People are only saved when someone understands them. No one understood this pitiful witch even after her death, even years later, including the man she wanted to understand her most. It's about time someone forgave her. At the end of the 5th game, Battler finally understood. However, it took him so long, and he didn't make it in time. So even though she's alive here now, Battler cannot save her. So if Battler isn't here at Beatrice's funeral, he won't come. He won't make it in time. This is Beatrice's funeral. You will confess, the Divine Master will hear, and I will forgive you. That's supposed to be Battler's job, but he didn't make it in time. So you'll have to settle for me. And Beato gave Battler so many hints too. Lambda also gave that idiot a ton of hints. I even got a good laugh in at Battler's game of repentance for missing so much. But I won't make anyone laugh. I'll just dispassionately carry out your funeral. No more talking from you. That's my job. If you're ready, let's begin. No one will rush you. Brenka still has closed off time for eternity until your funeral ends. You have as much time as you need to prepare yourself emotionally. The silhouette slowly shook its head. It had come here because it was already prepared. Will nodded to show he understood. Then the two looked into Bryn Castell's eyes, and Will spoke out clearly. This is the culprit. Goda's small footsteps rang throughout this chapel, huh? Goda's false footsteps. Gosh, how can I? Stop trying to sound cool. Listen, I am one yet many. What I speak is our tale. However, this is a small world, sealed by glass and cork, with no one to hear. None shall lay eyes upon it, and my entire tale shall be sealed away, set adrift in the sea of my heart until it disappears amongst the seaweed. Ah, where is this place? And who am I? Then let me ask, where do you want it to be? Who do you want it to be? Any place so long as it will wrap itself around me gently. Anyone so long as I am treated kindly. Yes, for us. For us. Where and who we are hardly matter. Correct. For us, it's such a trivial matter. At least until the day comes to pass. Why must we be thrown in the path of a new fate? Fate's pronouncement was sudden and abrupt. It wasn't the fate I'd wished for. But it did make your heart pound. Where will the new fate take me? It doesn't matter where. So long as that place is kind to us. When we were brought to the temporary dwelling where sad, parentless children gather, was that a sign of God's salvation, or a lure into the demon's game where the new fate would torment us? We have no way of knowing. And yet, we want to believe. We want to believe it was God's salvation sent to us, a sign of Fukuin, the good news, the gospel. The orphanage is called the Fukuin House. In case you've forgotten, it's been a while. But why me? I have no religion. Then it wasn't the gospel, but a demon's lure. And yet we cannot go against fate. Oh, I am one yet many. I pray that the new fate brings us blessings. The time is 1976 AD in April, at a time still too cool to be called spring. In a strange new land, we were tormented by the same stale air and drafts. I kinda wish they hadn't spoiled this song so early. I believe that's correct. Yeah, I think that's correct. I can check for you. Actually, it's gonna restart the song if I do that, so no, never mind. Chapter 1, A New Life. Okay, now I can do it. Oh, neat. I don't remember this screen. It's cool. I don't think it'll let me go back to that scene now in the backlog, but I can check. But I'm pretty sure that's correct, yeah. The next time Golden Nocturne comes up, it's going to be a much bigger deal. One of the best scenes in episode 7. Hold on a second here. No, I can switch back. Fukui... Yep. I don't think the vocal version's in the game. I think it's only on the CD. Those are the family rules. They may be strict, but I believe that the discipline you learn in this house will serve you well in the future. Yes, madam. The servants who would start working this April all called out in unison. The rules of the Ushina family are no more or less strict than those of the Fukuin house. However, we get paid a lot of money here. They also give us a lot of help in finding our next job. We work for the Ushina family, store up money, use their influence to get a job at a good company, and start on a new happy life. That was the dream, and it was a very realistic one, held by all of us at the Fukuin house. However, not everyone can become an Ushina family servant. Only kids with a record of exemplary conduct and good grades are recommended. So all of the kids who want to be sure of leaving the Fukuin house to live a happy life are feverishly devoted to their studies. That's enough for today. Tomorrow you start early. Make sure the lights are all out at the appropriate time. That is all. Yes, madam. Thank you very much. After bowing until Natsu was no longer in sight, the new servants all followed the lead of one of the more experienced servants and raised their heads. Okay, we're done for the day. Starting tomorrow, you'll be following your shift schedule. The madam is very strict about time. If any of you sleep in, it'll be my responsibility. So if you do, I'll kick you awake. Got it? Of course, this experienced servant was one of the older girls from the Fukuin house. She's been here for 2 years, apparently. That's probably why all the other new servants, who are older than me, seem to know her well. That madam looks so strict. Dang, I'm tired. By the way, who exactly is this kid? Why were you chosen to be a servant? The older servant pointed at me and asked the room at large, a dubious look on her face. It's no surprise, really. Most of us become servants when we graduate middle school or high school, but I'm just starting elementary school. The others will be working as servants every day of the week according to their standard shift schedule. However, on weekdays, I was going to go to the elementary school in Nijima with my lady, only working on weekends and when I had free time. It was an exception among exceptions, something that had never happened before. It was clear at a glance that the others, who had obtained the positions after a rigorous selection process, didn't like the fact that I was here too. Both Madam and Genji-sama have told me that you are to put your studies first, but you're still getting paid. Doesn't make any sense. If you're going to talk behind someone's back, at least do it behind them. She didn't even try to hide her discontent. Is this kid really that smart? A child prodigy or something? I never heard anything about that. Oh, that kid supposedly gets sick easily and is kept isolated most of the time. A total outsider to the rest of us, even back at the house. Now that you're here, you're part of the collective responsibility system. If you screw up, it's the same as everyone from the Fukuin house screwing up. Make sure you don't, okay? I nodded weakly. I'd never been threatened by someone this much older than me, and I was very frightened. Don't worry, I'll be there with you. Let's give it our all together, okay? Shannon smiled at me as she spoke. Isn't Shannon scared too? This house looks pretty strict. No, there's nothing scary about it. You just thought it was scary, so it got scary. And if I thought it was fun, would it get fun? Yeah, it would. So here too, let's give it our all with a smile. Shannon was my only friend in the Fukuin house. She was confident and popular, the complete opposite of me. I was embarrassingly dull-witted, and no one wanted to be my friend. I would never have made it through those days in the Fukuin house had it not been for her encouragement. So I would probably make it through here too with her by my side. Well, isn't it about time we got ready for bed? I've got work early tomorrow morning, but you have a different job. That's right. Like everyone else, I have to go to school. When I spend the night on Akenjima, I have to get ready for school and wait for my lady at the dock. My lady looks like an energetic person. I hope you get along well. Do you think I will? I'm so scared of school. I'm so nervous. I had grown used to life in the Fukuin house, so the more relaxed rules at school made life easy. But until I grew used to it, everything was new and everything made me nervous. My new life on Akenjima probably deserves an explanation. It was completely different from the comfortable yet stagnant life I'd lived at the Fukuin house. In addition to the time I spent as a servant to the Umineko family on Akenjima, I also traveled to the elementary school in Nijima on school days. It was the start of a time that was both rushed and busy, with hardly a moment to relax. Unlike the time I spent at the Fukuin house, I didn't get to sleep in the same bed every day. Half of the week, I slept in the servant waiting room in the Akenjima mansion. I would return from school with my lady, go to the mansion, and work there as a servant. I would then stay the night and go to school with my lady again the next day. When I didn't have work, I would return to the dormitory on Nijima, where I could have some time to myself in the room that I was assigned to. There was an adult dorm mother who strictly controlled meal times and lights out, but I was already used to that sort of life, so it wasn't hard for me. The rooms were slightly larger than average and housed 3 people each. However, either because of the number of people or some lucky chance, I was not given a 3-person room. Looks like we'll share a dorm room too. With Shannon by my side, I felt like I'd be able to manage well enough. She gets to dorm with Shannon. Or he. Unclear technically. Even vague. Correct. Every year, new servants came from the Fukuin house, replacing some of the old ones. It was something Father worked out with the house on his own. The rest of us weren't allowed to meddle. And after all, our family would strictly discipline these children without families and support them on their path to adulthood, which I always viewed as the rich Ushiguro family fulfilling its obligations to society. What sort of kids came to serve the Ushiguro family? I'm sure they were serious, cute kids of irreproachable conduct. It seemed to me that there were a lot of glaring hyenas among them. Let us say, they had high ambitions. They were pitiable children without families. All were determined to use this rare opportunity to launch their careers so that they could take control of their lives. Did all of them have to balance school and servant work? That must be tough. You wouldn't be able to get much work done. Before that? Wrong voice, she's not Kraus. Before that child, there were no cases of a servant going to school while they worked. To be honest, I was fairly surprised when that kid first came to greet me. So obviously young. The others were around 16 or 18 years old, but that kid alone looked 10 years younger. That one extraordinarily young servant came to the family mainly for experience, so not much was expected of that child's ability as a servant. Indeed, you certainly couldn't rely on that kid as much as you could an adult, seasoned servant. To think that we would accept a child who hadn't even started school, no knowledge of housework, no practical experience, and not even finished with mandatory education. I don't know what Father was thinking. I always thought there was something clearly odd about it. I spoke to Father about it. I asked if it might be better to wait for the servant to graduate middle school before starting here. And what did Kinzo say? Come on, we all know what he said. Oh, Beatrice! Umineko self-aware. By that time, he was already a complete shut-in inside his study, obsessed with the occult. If you tried to talk to him when he didn't want you to, he'd yell and tell you to stop interrupting the journey of his mind. And Father's decisions are absolute. However, the case of this particular child just didn't make sense. I even asked the Fukuin house about it. They said to ask Genji-san. I then asked Genji-san, and he said to ask the master. And then you asked the master, and he said, Beatrice! No one knows the truth. Jessica was the only child on the island. The servants would often play with my daughter, but she wanted a friend of her own age. Someone she could play with at home, as well as at school. I began to think that Father employed the servant out of pity for Jessica. But if that were the case, why wouldn't he talk to us about it beforehand? We should be the ones to decide which friends are suitable for our daughter. Scary, haha. That's who you must have really hated taking your kid out in public. We should probably view this as an arrangement planned by Genji. Probably. Genji-san knew that the me in this world carried grandfather's blood, so he probably arranged for that me to be summoned at Akenjima. Are you feeling okay now? It was a really big shock, that's all. I just feel a bit dizzy now. In this world, you're the successor. But if we move to a different world, you're a servant, or maybe a witch. You do have a troubled fate. No kidding. I don't regret learning about it, but if I could forget it now, I would. Isn't it interesting? Even though you're a servant, you're actually an illegitimate child of the head. Isn't that romantic like some fairy tale? Romantic? Considering how Mom must have felt, I'm not sure what to think. True. In Natsu's eyes, the Leon of this world is nothing more than the baby she hated and was forced to raise. In this world, she rejected that child. Natsu must adore her natural child Jessica a bunch more. A baby that doesn't share your blood is nothing more than a dirty, lukewarm sack of filth. Have some decency. Next time, I'll be the one pitching your butt. Thank you, Will. I think I understand, more or less. And that's exactly why I need to be grateful to my mother. She's raised me fairly all these years. Though the probability so low, it would take a miracle to happen. Animals are always brutal towards children that don't carry their blood. Lions do that too, don't they? We can probably sketch out Genji's line of thinking. The Leon of this world is a true, blood-related member of the Ishida family. He must have wanted to let that child live on Aokejima somehow. However, it wasn't as though he could suddenly show up with Leon and tell everyone who this was. Yeah, maybe he wanted me to live in the island until I was used to it, and then reveal everything when the chance presented itself. However, the Leon of this world was not given special treatment. The silver ring doesn't actually exist. I wonder if that means grandfather never heard about me. That might mean that Genji never found a good opportunity to reveal the truth. So essentially, what it sounds like is the case is, in most universes, the baby who falls off the cliff survives. Genji decides, okay, this clearly isn't going to work. Reports the baby is dead to Kinzo Natsuhi, enrolls the baby in the Fukuin house as an orphan. Then once they come of age, he brings them back to Aokejima as a servant. So far, that is the origin of Beatrice, or whoever creates Beatrice, as the game is still wording it at this point. Most universes hit the water bucket timing. No, I think they landed the hay bill because they're definitely critically injured afterwards after falling off the cliff. I'll tell you that much for sure. I'll foreshadow a bit. They're definitely injured. Beatrice has a very special injury. Has not come up quite yet. Genji must have wanted to tell the truth one day, to tell that the orphan of Kinzo's beloved Beatrice was still alive. However, that was not an easy thing to say. Why wasn't it easy? Dummy, what would happen if Natsuhi found out? Oh right, if Leon suddenly appeared, Jessica wouldn't be the successor anymore. Strictly speaking, Jessica wasn't the successor, but since she'd be able to select the future successor, it all came to the same thing. The more one learns, the less simple this tale becomes. There were some who celebrated my birth, and some who did not. But Genji could only wait in silence for the proper day to reveal it all. Was it a tale hidden only within Genji's heart? Leon and Kinzo and Natsu and Kraus and Jessica and everyone else. None of them knew this tale. Thus, the curtain slowly rise in this curious tale in the year 1976. Oh, I am one yet many. Why must fate abandon us and continue on its merry way? People only found the young servant strange for the first month. Natsu and Kraus's protests came to naught. After all, there was no actual harm in it. So why not indulge Kinzo's whim? Eventually, everyone grew accustomed and began to accept this slightly normal everyday life. However, it was not so for the other Fukuin servants, who were always close by and who believed that everyone should be treated equally. Their small bits of discontent over my special treatment began to accumulate as time went on. Nice work, Sawachi. How'd it go today? Madam was really pissed off. She was like running her finger across the windowsills. Yeah, and getting on Tadachi's case for cleaning slow. Come on, give us a break. All the kids in the Fukuin house are supposed to treat each other as family. Because of this, everyone hides their original names and uses their new blessed names. Maybe because the in characters in the word Fukuin, that character is almost always combined with at least one character from that child's original name to make their new name. So this is in Fukuin, but it's on in a lot of other cases. Like Shannon and Canon also came from the Fukuin house, and the on in their name is that same on. So it's just the kanji for sound. Still, just giving a person a new name doesn't mean they'll accept it so easily. Boys and girls who have lived in isolation and through various trials sometimes feel as though their real first and last names are a bond that's worth holding on to. So in Shannon's case, you take the Sa from Sayo and make it into Sha, and then you get Shannon. It's supposed to be the Japanese reason of doing. I don't know what that is. Do you mean canon as in like the religious term? I forget if it's the same or not. I think this conversation already came up once. I don't know. But it's still the same kind of thing. What's Canon's original name again? It came up once before. I've already forgotten. Yeah. So most of the Fukuin children hate their own names, calling each other by nicknames based on their original names. Of course, that's only done privately. When in the presence of the house director or other important people, only the blessed names are used. On the job, the blessed names are used. And off the job, informal nicknames are used. Everyone's very used to living with two names like this, so they're all comfortable with how the system works. Yeah, I don't think that's Canon's name. Ooh, you stink. Go take a shower. Dang, why is it so cramped in here? Can't they get a bigger dorm if they have that huge mansion? Hey, Garashi-san, why is Yasu the only one who isn't in a 3-person room? By Yasu, they probably mean me. I can't remember my parents at all, since they were gone as far back as my memory goes, but I was given the last name Yasuda. And apparently my nickname comes from that. How should I know? Genji-san was the one who decides the rooms. I don't like it either. Yeah, seriously. Wouldn't it normally go 2 and 2? I mean, who exactly is Yasu anyway? Looks like that kid's job is going to school with my lady or something. So what, is being a school friend a profession now? Doesn't make any sense. Of course, on days when I'm given work, I return to the mansion right after school and work alongside all the others. I help out with caring for the garden and cleaning up the mansion. I can't do any jobs on my own, so I'm always just helping out. Maybe because I'm young, the adult servants are always kind to me. My fellow Fukuin servants don't seem too happy about that, though. Don't you think Kuwasawa-san's obviously soft than Yasu? It's like she's mistaken Yasu for a grandchild or something. And why on earth does that kid get paid the same as the rest of us? I don't get it. I realize that you have school to worry about, but don't forget that you're a servant too, okay? You need to stop being a helper and learn to do work by yourself, like the rest of us. We aren't going to let you take it easy forever, okay? So just the elephant in the room here. I'm sure everyone's noticed, hey, these other servants have the same faces as the 7 Snakes of Purgatory, and the same hair and everything. At least, they're clearly, like, supposed to be parallels, and yeah. I mean, no, it's not asset reuse. It's like this for an intended purpose. I could talk about it because I don't really think it's a big reveal or anything, but I'll let the game go into it. If the game doesn't go into it, I'll mention it later. But it should make some sense, maybe. I've been trying my best. However, I'm not very strong yet, so I can't carry heavy things. I can't carry a lot of things either. I can't fold clothes right, and I'm not good at using a dustpan. I just can't do it as well as everyone else. As my face turned red... It's not reused assets, no. It's literally... No, it's not symbolism either. It's neither of those things. It's literally like that for a good reason. I spotted Shannon, who was watching the sidelines and not joining in. Alright, I'll just talk about it. So if Yasu is going to become Beatrice later on, and if she has to summon 7 Snakes of Purgatory, she's going to base them off of something. She essentially took these people that she knew and made, like, magic alter egos for them as the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. There you go. So, it's for a good reason. No, I wouldn't really say it's symbolism. Beatrice literally, like, reuses their appearance to make, like, her magic followers. That's not symbolism. I don't know what you'd call it. I don't think symbolism is right. You depicted them as chads or enemies as the Wojak. Yeah, there you go. Shannon is my only ally. Like me, she can do everything well. However, she'll never pamper me. She'll show me how things are done, but she'll never steal my jobs from me. She really is incredible. I really want to be like Shannon as soon as I can. She never talks behind people's backs, and no one talks behind her back. She's kind and she gets along with everyone. I want to be like her. And she's always kindly watching over my efforts to become like her. Why did I end up here? I don't know. Though I'd just been muttering to the ceiling, Shannon gave me an honest answer. I guess there's no way to say it, except that it's part of God's plan. Is this another test from God? Yep. Think of it as a test to help you grow into a wonderful human being. After all, you're a special chosen person. If anything, if there's any asset we used to be had here, it's probably the fact that Shannon still looks the same, even though this is, what, like 10 or so years ago? Am I special? Of course you are. After all, everyone else here is huge, but you were the only one special enough to be chosen young. Why am I the only one who's little? I can't do any jobs by myself. Or maybe that's symbolism too. Who knows? We'll see. Everyone complains that I'm just there to play with my lady, and yet Madam made it clear that I am not to think of my lady as a friend or speak to her in a casual manner. You may be 10 years younger than everyone else, but that means if you keep it up until you're the same age as the others, you'll be much more experienced than the new people who come later. Even Genji-sama will acknowledge your talents, and you'll become a leader who can teach the new kids who come from the Fukuin house. And then I'm sure that everyone will respect you. By that time, even Madam, the Master, and Cross-sama will acknowledge your skills. That's your future. You mean like the ugly duckling becoming a swan? That might be it. After all, it was very unusual for you to be chosen as an Ushina family servant. In fact, that rumor might be true, and you might be the secret child of someone in the Ushina family. Shannon laughed, saying, wouldn't that be cool? And then you'd be super rich too. But that didn't seem quite right to me. After all, if that was the case, why have I had to live all alone here in the Fukuin house? Shannon and people like the house director are the only ones who will play with me. I don't have any other friends to play with, and I've spent all my time by myself in my isolated room. Maybe it's because I'm frail and always sleep a lot, but it has been lonely. Hey Genji, exactly how much did you know? You never talk about anything, but you've known everything since the beginning, haven't you? 19 years ago, you heard from Natsu that a servant had fallen from a cliff holding a baby. You went to the bottom of that cliff and realized that the baby was still alive, didn't you? I was not qualified to determine whether it was alive or dead. Then who was? The doctor, of course. What do you say, Dr. Nanjo? Are you certain? Is it alright for me to speak? If you're willing to tell the story yourself, then I ask it of you. Nanjo gets a roll. Very well. Why that Nanjo gets a bit more involvement as the story goes on. I was contacted by Ganji-san immediately after the accident and asked to conduct an examination in secrecy. In secrecy? Why? Both the Beatrice of Kuwadorian and her child were unregistered people who weren't supposed to exist. It would lead to various problems if it went public. I had started the procedures to have the baby registered, but they were not complete at that time. It was a very unfortunate time for the baby to die. So the servant who fell was treated as having died alone in an accident? Natsu wouldn't talk to anyone. It would have been easy to set up. But that baby was alive, wasn't it? Correct. But of course, the child was gravely injured. It was a miracle that it survived that wound. If the angle had been slightly different, or if Genji-san had been any slower in carrying the baby to me, that baby only managed to survive thanks to a series of miracles. I had given up. I didn't believe the baby could have survived that. But it did. How strong and resilient is life? No, this is fate. Fate! So the baby was fated to live on and eventually accomplish something great? If by something great you mean a bunch of murders. Yes, I did think it was fate. I thought the blood of the Kuwadorian Beatrice-sama, whose life ended on Rakenjima, must have imparted something onto this child to make it survive. It'd be a real shame if both of them died consecutively falling off a cliff, huh? That would be kind of sad, so it's nice that fate got denied. However, Genji did not tell his master, Kinzo, that the child had survived. He simply said that it had fallen to its death in an unfortunate accident. Kinzo mourned, but his mourning was more one of madness than of sorrow. Oh, Beatrice, why have you run away from me once more? Why, even though I had swore I'd never make the same mistake again? Why? I have a hard time believing that. That's an unfortunate future to have to think about, but who knows what would have happened if this Beatrice had successfully grown up normally. Well, I mean, with Kinzo knowing, if the baby had fallen off the cliff, I guess. There was one matter in which Genji did not trust the master he so respected. That matter is whether Kinzo would be capable of accepting Beatrice's grandchild as her grandchild. Genji had served the Kuwadori Beatrice for many years as well. He was very aware of what she had felt. He knew that she had accepted the favor Kinzo had bestowed on her and respected him as a father. However, her love was not the same as Kinzo's love. Kinzo thought her to be Beatrice reborn, and tried to use her to satisfy the many feelings he had for the late Beatrice. Of course, the Kuwadori Beatrice could not accept those feelings. In the end, she had her chastity stolen by the one she thought of as her only family and respected as a father. She thought he was her father, and he thought she was his wife. Oh, what? Irreconcilable, forbidden love. This is not to say it was incapable of understanding how Kinzo-sama felt. At the moment of her birth, even he did not plan on taking advantage of her, due to her resemblance to the late Beatrice-sama. He even spoke to me about it a few times when we were drinking. I always thought he was just joking. Was he surprised to find that the daughter grew to look more and more like the mother? As the daughter grew, did he suffer from a forbidden emotion he couldn't suppress? I thought that he might commit the same mistake again. That was my view. Beatrice-sama suffered much, and yet she never truly understood the difference between her feelings and Kinzo's. Beatrice-sama consulted me many times, laying bare her deepest feelings. However, I was unable to tell her. That would be hard to say. Imagine telling her that the one she respects as the father wants to use her as a replacement for her dead mother. Let me say this for the sake of Kinzo-san's honor. He also suffered greatly. It pained him when he found that he could no longer think of his daughter as a daughter. I told him to love her as a father. I think Kinzo-san followed his logic and his conscience, and fought for quite some time. Kinzo loved her. He poured his affection onto the daughter that Beatrice had left behind. He did so as a father. And yet, if so, why did he give the daughter the same name as the mother? Yes, Kinzo's sin started from the moment she received life. She was born, and Beatrice died. He passed the name down from mother to daughter. For the moment of her birth, Kinzo had already decided that she was Beatrice reborn. So, then we get Leon. Kinzo, trying to atone for his sin, tried to make Leon a proper member of the Ushida family. Exactly. I get the feeling I'll get my butt pinched if I talk about other fragments, but what if there was a fragment where Leon is accepted and Kinzo commits the same sin again? Want to see if we can find one of those? Let's not. Who would want to see something like that? Is this your job, mixing the worst possible delusions and possibilities for every part of a person's life and sneering at them? Unfortunately, that's the sort of demon she is. How rude. I'm a witch. That's the sort of witch she is. Genji foresaw that worst of all possible futures, and, trying to secure a better future, he intentionally lied about the baby being dead. Right. Kinzo was a man so impulsive that he used his own daughter. Genji, who knew Beatrice's feelings and felt sympathy for her, couldn't trust Kinzo so easily. Even Genji, Kinzo's most devoted servant? Genji draws a clear line between the professional and the personal. While he served Kinzo faithfully, he also felt that the mistake Kinzo had made with his daughter was not one to be forgiven easily. Could be. And to make sure that Leon wouldn't be found out easily, Genji lied about the kid's age, lowering it by 3 years. That's a good point. In this world, I'm just entering elementary school in 1976. I was actually supposed to become a 4th year then. If your fairness wasn't the reason, then Genji must have been careful to disguise the year of your birth. Not only Kinzo, but also Natsuhi wouldn't easily forget the baby from 19 years ago. If a suspiciously young servant of that age came to the island, Natsuhi's woman's intuition would definitely have picked up on it. Had the child been too sick to go to school for 3 years? Or the age been faked so that Natsuhi wouldn't figure everything out? Either way, we know that your age has been lowered by 3 in this world. Correct. The age of this world's Leon has been altered by 3. This is a small, feeble kid we're talking about. An underdeveloped kid. It would have been impossible to pull off. It would have been more possible to pull off than you'd think. Genji decided to wait and see. In the end, would Kinzo be able to accept Beatrice's child as an actual child, or not? He had the child live in the Fukuin house until a suitable age, and then summon the child to the island as a servant. Both father and child had no clue who the other was. Genji had an idea. If Kenzo truly felt affection as a parent, he would notice traces of the deceased mother and daughter in this child. That way, they would surely regain their parent-child relationship without anyone having to expose the truth to them. That's what he thought. Or perhaps the time might come naturally. When that happened, he could tell the truth to both father and child. Believing that this day would eventually come, Genji told nothing of this to anyone. He watched over Beatrice's child, waiting for the fated day. And time continued to pass. Days slid by as he quietly watched over Beatrice's child. But where does everything go wrong? I think we'll get through chapter 2 of this. Then once chapter 3 starts, maybe I'll stop. We'll see how things go. Yasu, what'd you do with the small broom? Didn't you use it to clean the window frames? Ah, the small broom is a little thin broom that looks like a large paintbrush. We use it to clear out the dust in small corners like window frames. Why do you only have one of them? It's one of the cleaning tools I was put in charge of. Come on, that's your responsibility. What have you been doing, idiot? Quickly, go and find it. You have to do it before Madam finds out. What's up? Yasu lost the small broom again. Kid must be some sort of genius at losing things. That's why I'm always telling you, never give things to Yasu. Yasu's always careless in losing things. Don't say that. Can't you see that this kid's working hard? Go on, hurry and find it. I'll wait for you. Okay. Not wanting to hear my fellow servants complain even more, I spun around and headed off. If you lose a tool, you get in trouble. If no one else knows who did it, Stop making words. If no one knows who did it, we all get yelled at. So one of them will probably tell Madam that it was my fault. Still, it really is my fault that I lost it in the first place. I wonder when I lost it. When? We cleaned out the entire chapel today. The chapel is a large building behind the mansion. However, no one ever goes near it normally. Even so, we are ordered to clean it a few times each year. Ginzo calls it a sacred building, so Natsu is very strict about it. We'd cleaned every little nook and cranny from top to bottom. It had taken all day. I had been in charge of cleaning the window frames, but I had also been given many smaller tasks. While those small jobs were keeping me busy, I completely forgot about the small broom, and I must have left it lying around somewhere. I began to hate myself for it. This isn't the first time this has happened. Oh, you're right. It is. At least I changed the category. Thank you. It happens all the time. Every time I set something down, it always disappears. It goes somewhere else. It vanishes. I thought it was probably the witch, Beatrice, pranking me. The ghost of the witch gained power from Nakenjima's evil spirits and was reborn. Until Kumasawa-san told me, I never knew the meaning of the shrine of the rocks by the sea. Kumasawa told an old tale passed down among the local fishermen. Nakenjima used to be known as Akujikishima, and terrible evil spirits who ate human souls lived there. Hey Kumasawa, let us hear too. Tell us the scary tale of Nakenjima's evil spirits. Oh, very well, very well. Nakenjima was once called Azukishima. Now it's a different one. However, even deeper in the distant past, it was known as Akujikishima. It was rumored that sailors who went too near the island were dragged down to the bottom of the sea and had their souls eaten. Yes, frightening spirits such as those do exist on this island. Oh. It was Kumasawa's favorite ghost story. Every new servant who came to the island knew about it. Such stories are usually laughed off, but when stormy nights visited Nakenjima, bringing an eerie howling to that lonely island where nothing exists except the Ushimura mansion, everyone would listen meekly. The shrine by the coast was there to seal the evil spirits away, and the master had that creepy occult hobby, and the mansion was so spooky it was easy to picture something hiding in the shadows. Oh, true. The traveling Shugenja monk was only barely able to suppress those spirits. The seal just managed to hold them, but to this very day they wander through the mansion, night after night, searching for a victim. Oh. Have you seen the master's study? I have. It's like some kind of demon laboratory. There's that rumor about the master researching demons. They also say he's researching how to revive his mistress, Beatrice. Didn't they say he was gathering children to be sacrifices for his magic experiments? Ah, scary. What did you do if the master asked you to come into the study alone? I heard that long ago. One kid went to the study and never came out. That must have been a bit of an experiment to get Beatrice's ghost a new body. Oh, very true. Beatrice-sama has become a ghost and wanders around, searching for a body. The VIP room on the second floor is where Beatrice-sama dwells. You must always be respectful when cleaning that room. If you aren't... you get jump-scared by Kumasawa, I guess. In the eyes of teenage boys and girls, with their powerful imaginations, I asked, the ghost story was both terrifying and fascinating. It gave them a sense of solidarity, since they all got to experience the same tale. Then, that sharing became an obligation, and accepting the story became a rite of passage for joining the community. This was something that had been passed on since long ago. That's right. Back when I first started work at Rakenjima, I heard that story from Kumasawa-san and the older servants. I heard about it too, mostly from Nei-san. I heard it too, from Kumasawa-san mainly. So not only the timid-looking shonen, but a boy, canon, and a big adult Goda believed in the ghost story? Well, I didn't really. There are tales of ghost stories and jinxes in all jobs. There were several stories of the sort at the hotel I once worked at. So you thought it was silly and you didn't mind it at all? I think there was a need to blend with the community. That's it. Ghost stories and jinxes are the local rules of your workplace. If a newcomer breaks those rules, they can't expect to be welcomed in. Exactly. If I said witches couldn't possibly exist, that the whole idea was ridiculous, then I'd get into a fight with Nei-san. It was easier if I just appeared to go along with it. Yeah, you're like explicitly at Beatrice's backstory right now, as indirectly as it's being explained, so yeah, this is probably something to be careful about watching too much of. Come on, if you think that way, you'll be cursed. There was one servant who got seriously injured. All workplaces have stories like that. No matter how incredible the ghost stories and tales about the company founder are, you accept and believe them. That's what it means to blend in with your new workplace. Wow, everyone's so mature! Oh, you... Oh. Yeah. I went to each window around the chapel in the order I had cleaned them, searching carefully in all the places I might have left it. I had been cleaning the windows with it, so it had probably been set down near one of those. When did I leave it behind, I wonder? Now that I think about it, I don't think I had it anymore when I reached the last window. I must have completely forgotten to clean that window frame. Ah. Through the window, I could see the others leaving one after another. Shannon turned around and glanced up, looking worried. I don't want to be responsible for making everyone wait, so I'm actually glad they're leaving without me. If I said I wanted them to wait for me, I'd be relying on them too much. The sun's beginning to set, and the chapel's getting darker and darker. I don't want to hang around in a place like this all by myself. I'd better find the small room fast. No, that's not all. I mean, I thought Shannon was there. Yeah, Shannon's here. I also need to clean the window frames, I forgot. Madam is strict. She'll probably check all the windows eventually. Windows carefully. If she does, I'll be the one who gets in trouble tomorrow. But really, where did I lose it? Why did I lose it? The darkness grew and grew. When it became dark enough that I would need a light before long, I began to panic. I dashed around and around the chapel, tears streaming down my face. As I stumbled about pathetically, I could feel the presence of a prankster witch giggling at me from the crack of the door and gaps in the ceiling. The ghost of Beatrice, the master's mistress, wanders about in search of a body to this very day. As she absorbs the power of Rakenjima's evil spirits, her strength steadily grows and she waits for the day of her resurrection. And, for some reason, she's peeking out at me, and if I ever take my eyes off something for a second, she snatches it away and hides it. Looking at me? This isn't the first time this has happened. Whenever I look away, keys, handkerchiefs, pencils, erasers, all of them vanish almost right away. Even though I was planning to use them later, or just wanted to put them in their proper place, they disappear as soon as I turn around. It isn't someone hiding them as a prank. It's happened many times when I'm the only person around. Everyone always says I'm too careless and forgetful, and they laugh at me, get mad at me. I do try to be alert, but like some kind of bad joke I lose things easily when I forget about them for just a short while. So, sometimes, I think this eraser is going to disappear sooner or later, and I stare at it. But at those times alone, it doesn't disappear. Nothing disappears when I'm alert. But as soon as I think I'm safe, and the tension relaxes just a bit, then something else will disappear. Why is it always me? Yeah, I hear you. I can tell that the witch is laughing at me as I lamely run around in circles. Listening to that voiceless laugh, I finally slam my hands against the wall, crying tears of frustration. Please, just stop it. Why do you always hide my things and get me in trouble? And the witch answered. Fool. Isn't it obvious? Why else except to entertain myself by watching you wander about pointlessly? I couldn't bear it. Even though I knew what she said was true, hearing it said directly was incredibly annoying. I understand. That small room probably is somewhere in this chapel. No, that's not quite it. I'm sure that the moment before I reached this window, it was right there on the windowsill. That's right, I'm sure I put it by this window. But the prankster witch Beatrice used her magic, and just before I reached the spot, she instantly teleported the small room to the next window over. The instant I approached that window, a hole appeared beneath the small room, swallowing it up. And it came out by the next window after that. It landed right beside it, right inside it, as though it had been there the whole time. And this happened over and over again. As I ran out for that window, the small room fell into a magic hole and went to the next window. And when I went to that window, it went to the next window. And I realized that she was just making fun of me. So no matter how much I searched, it would be useless. But if I stopped searching, it'll just be sitting there by one window or another. So this isn't a search, it's a test of endurance. I kept chasing after the small room, and Beatrice kept making escape to the next window over, trying to make me give up. This is an eternal chase that'll end only when one of us gives up. So I kept going around and around, even to windows that I knew I'd already searched. If it's not by this one, then try the next one and the next one. And the witch kept moving the small room to the next window and the next. Just give it a rest. How long are you going to make fun of me? This isn't the only time. You always do this. The shrill, voiceless laugh of the formless witch continued to mock my sobbing. The witch is right beside me, laughing at me. As I dash around the chapel, she is following along with me, taunting me. Then, she must be there. She's right behind me, just over my shoulder, still cackling away. I know that turning around won't help since she has no form. I can try to look, but I mustn't look with my eyes. Once my eyes tell me there's nothing there, I won't be able to see anymore. I learned that from the director of the food greenhouse. You mustn't try to see with your eyes. You must see with the eyes of your heart. The whole world is filled with God's love. In the many blessings of everyday life, one can see God, angels, and the Holy Ghost. If you try to look with your eyes, you won't see them, so you won't be able to see them. So you won't be able to feel them or understand them. With the eyes of the heart, you will quietly understand. You don't look at their image, you see and draw them with your heart. So you imagine. In this way, I learned how to recognize beings not of this world at the food greenhouse. It doesn't just mean being able to see God. This powerless wouldn't see all of those not of this world. Please stop it now. Stop this prank. Oh, so you can speak to me. I'm clumsy, bad at my job, and I do put things down and forget about them a lot. But I know which things were my fault and which things were because of your pranks. How amusing. Not only can you perceive me in my formless state, but you even understand my little game. It seems you're a more interesting creature than I thought, Yasu. I'm usually called Yasu when one of the older servants is laughing behind my back at some mistake I've made. So when I hear that name, it feels bad. She called me, not by the blessed name given to me by the food greenhouse, but by that unblessed name. Upsetting the heart is the classic move that evil beings make. They do it to make it harder for people to notice their presence. To beings like witches, being understood is like shoving them out into the light of day. It won't work. In the food greenhouse, I learned how to perceive those not of this world, so I'm already able to understand you. Very interesting. You've taken me, a being so faint that I'd fly away if you blew on me, and trapped me, perceived me. You're an interesting kid, Yasu. It won't work. I've now understood and perceived you. No matter how many unpleasant things you say, you'll just expose the ugliness of your heart. Without turning around, I slowly let my range of vision fill the entire chapel. It was as though my viewpoint of my soul was floating out from the shell of my head. See, inch by inch, my range of vision is floating out of my head and drifting upwards. As I looked down at myself, standing there with head hanging and eyes tightly shut, the eyes of my heart, very slowly, rose up to the ceiling of the chapel. And when I looked down from there, I saw myself standing in the center of the chapel, and the witch standing behind me. Apparently, the witch realized that I could see her. She turned around and raised her eyes to look at the eyes of my heart, floating by the ceiling. At last, I could see the witch Beatrice with the eyes of my heart. I'm a human that can perceive my form. The demonic lips twisted in an ugly curve. It was clearly a challenging, repulsive demon smile. She wore a blood-red dress and hat. The design was completely different from anything humans wore. Her hair was blonde. It had countless beautiful curls like a princess from a picture book, but there was no trace of cuteness about her. I did think you were a bit different from the other humans, but it seems I was mistaken. Forget just a bit, you're nothing like those other humans. You sad witch who can be seen by no one, heard by no one. Have you been pulling these pranks all the time just to catch the attention of humans? I use what little magic I have to interfere when humans aren't looking, but no matter what I do, none of them think it's magic. They decide that they just made a little mistake, and blow my existence away like candles on a cake. If so, then I've just saved you, because I understand you and have perceived you. Saved me? To me, this meeting with you is nothing more than a new way to kill time. It's getting dark. I don't have time to play with you anymore. Oh, my apologies. I was so engrossed that I didn't notice the time. Please give it back. My cleaning tool. That small broom or whatever you call it. It's right there by the next window. But as soon as I get close, you'll move it to the next window over. My form is elusive, as is my magic. With a snap of my fingers, I can do anything. The witch snapped her fingers, and various things throughout the chapel were sucked into a black pit hole beneath them, disappearing. No, they didn't disappear. The instant they vanished into the dark holes, other dark holes appeared in completely different parts of the chapel, and the vanished objects fell out of those. Chairs, musical scores, clocks, and vases. Of elusive? It's probably, that one Yojijuku-go. Where is it that it comes up here? Oh, here, my form is elusive. Yeah, it's, Shinshutsuki Botsu. That's what I thought it would be. Waga sugata ga Shinshutsuki Botsu de yaru yoni, waga maho wa Shinshutsuki Botsu. Elusive. Yep, that's the one. Chairs, musical scores, clocks, and vases started appearing and disappearing all across the room. Yeah, I've seen it in relation to Yukari too. I mean, what a surprise considering Gap, you know? He's definitely got some Yukari similarities. It made it feel as though countless tools were flying around the chapel. I can do things like this, but don't. After all, this would be a bit beyond a mere prank, don't you think? I wonder what the difference between a prank and magic is to a witch. When she snapped her fingers again, all the loud flying objects returned to their original spots, and silence fell. Hi. Come on. Come on, honey. Okay. I've taken a liking to you. You perceived and captured me? It works the same in reverse. I perceived and captured you. The Foot Green director told me not to try and see evil beings. If you see them, they will possess you. Now that I understood the switch, a bond had been formed between us. That is correct. Now that you've acknowledged my existence, I have formed a bond with you. After all the years I've spent in boredom, it will be nice to have a young kid like you to talk to. I'll talk to you from time to time. So will you stop playing pranks like this? No, I'm not here to talk to you, but to play with you. And if we're playing, pranks are just part of the game, right? Very well. I've had enough fun for one day. The sun is sunk and the moon is full. I'm a bit tired after appearing in front of you for so long. Let us call it a night. Look how much fun we had with just a single broom. Please give it back. Junie's got maths lately. I've been rushing her a bit every day, but she doesn't like it. She's stubborn, aren't you? You don't like being brushed. You don't take very good care of your hair. Well, because the seasons are changing. Please give it back. No way. I'll keep this as a token of our meeting. Got a problem with that? If I said I did, would you give it back to me? I never listen to humans. However, I might lend an ear to a friend. If you give it back, I'll acknowledge you as a friend. Foolish human, did you actually think that a loan would make me want to deal? If you want to make a deal with me, try drawing a mysterious magic circle or two. And yeah, I might consider your proposal. What do you mean you might? I'll take my time in deciding whether you're worthy to be my friend. After all, to be a witch is to be a contrarian in Amanoshaku. If you ask us for an answer, we'll never give one right away. Understood. Then, I'll leave the small broom with you. Please give it back when you decide to become my friend. Very well. Will this broom become a bridge of friendship between us, or not? I will hang on to it for now, making my decision in my own good time. When the witch snapped her fingers, the broom for which I had searched for so long fell out of a hole in the air. Landing between the fingers, she had just snapped. This is goodbye. This game with you is far from boring. Let's play again sometime. If you're my friend, that is. When a cat toys with a mouse, does it try to become friends with it first? The witch faded away. As she did, the eyes of my heart shut themselves. And I have cat hair all over my face. It's your fault. When I returned to my body, I felt suddenly tired and let out the breath I'd been holding. Of course, when I turned around, there was no one to be seen. I couldn't feel the witch's presence anymore. It had gotten very dark by this time. I decided to leave the chapel. There's no point in searching for the small broom any longer. Not until the witch decides to give it back. What are you going to tell everyone else? I went out of the chapel. The chapel key had been left in the lock. I used it to lock the door. What am I going to do about the small broom? There's nothing I can do. I can't even blame the witch. I must acknowledge that I'm responsible for giving the witch a chance. When I happened to glance downwards, I saw a small broom lying there by my feet. It was the broom I'd been searching for this whole time. Don't tell me that it'll be swallowed up by a dark hole the instant I bend over to pick it up. No. This is a sign from the witch. A sign that she acknowledges me as a friend. I picked it up. Oh, I'm one yet many. The first friend I made after coming to the island was apparently not a human at all. However, when I think back on it, it was only natural. What other sort of friend would you expect to make on a witch's island? This was the first meeting between me and Beatrice. However, as some of you listeners may have noticed, this was not a meeting with a real Beatrice. The witch I then called Beatrice would later be known by another name. However, she was clearly not human, and being bonded with one who is not human means being bonded with their world. I still had no way of knowing the varied fates that waited for me in Aokенjima. End of Chapter 2, The First Friend. Obviously, a lot of this is symbolic. I say obviously. But, well. Chapter 3 will start shortly, probably. Oh, so it puts the name in here. That's nice. It is, however, just a vessel name, so the name isn't really super important. But now that I know that we can call her Claire. There we go, that's good. Claire Voxoff Bernardis. I don't know why her name is like that, but it is. There's Epper and Furfur over here again. And I don't think anything else to do in particular. I don't think it's going to add the other servants here. As in, like, the ones that look like the Seven Sisters. I don't think they'll get added. But they do have names, I think, even if they don't come up too often, if at all, in this novel. But okay. That was some progress. Next time I will try to get through some more. So, let me see here.